Some people have thousands of reasons why they cannot do, they want to do, when all they need is one reason why they can. With this amazing thought, a very good morning to all my dear students. I hope that you all are in good health. This is Shreya Jadhav welcoming you all to my e-learning channel. And today we are going to do English Grade 9 Supplementary Reading 5 The Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde. This is part 2 of the chapter. In the previous video lecture, we have gone through the first part of the chapter. Today, we shall proceed with the remaining part of the chapter with reading an explanation of it. But before starting it, let us know something about the author. Oscar Wilde, born on 16th October 1854, died 30th November 1900, was an Irish playwright, novelist, essayist, and poet. He became fluent in French and German early in life. After university, Wilde moved to London into fashionable cultural and social circles. After writing in different forms throughout the 1800s, he became one of London's most popular playwrights in the early 1890s. At the turn of 1890s, he refined his ideas about the supremacy of art in a series of dialogues and essays, and incorporated themes of descendants, duplicacy, and beauty into its only novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, written in the year 1890. He is remembered for his epigrams of the novels, plays, as well as all the circumstances of his imprisonment and early death. Introduction for answers. Dear students, always remember whenever you are appearing for any test or exams, always start your answer with introduction. This creates really good impact. So here it is. Prose. Prose name The Happy Prince. Author's name Oscar Wilde. Genre short story. Summary. The first theme of the story is that outward beauty is nothing. It is just a show. The real beauties are love and sacrifices. So, now let us proceed. In the previous video, we all have gone through the story. We all have gone through the story that comprises of how the happy prince, every person in the town always admired and wanted to become like him. But he actually knew what was the exact situation of the state. He was born and brought up in very riches, and he has always seen everything positive around him. But in actuality, the people over there suffered a lot. They all have various and plenty types of problem. So the happy prince, when he was alive at that time duration, he was unable to help people. And after the death, his statue, we can say like this, that his statue was actually made up of gold, and moreover to that there were gems and sapphires and rubies in his sword and eyes. But just now in the present time, in the story also, he was, we can say, adjoined to the pedestal. So it was very difficult for him to move and help people when he actually came to know that what suffering they all felt. Now in the story, there comes a bird who is a swallow or swallow, whatever you spell. So how well we can say he was contradicted over here. He was actually going to Egypt, but he thought that he would stay over there and had a night hold, we can say. So when he went over there, at first he thought that it was raining at that time duration, but after a certain time duration, after one drop, second drop, the third drop, he realized that the happy prince was actually crying. What was the reason? That the people living in the town were suffering a lot and he wanted them to help. So he requested the bird that at least they should, um, that he should at least be a messenger for a day, and how he would help them. That really changed and made the difference. So he told that a lady is supposed to complete her work, because the next day she is supposed to give the embroidery work to the royalty, the women over there. But his son was suffering with cold and fever, and his health and state was also not well. Moreover to that, he was asking for oranges, but the mother didn't had a single penny even to buy the fruits for him. So, while looking at all these things, Happy Prince told the little swallow that he should go and take the ruby out of his sword and help the women at any cost. Because helping people is always, you can feel better at any cost and time. So now we shall start up with the next part of the chapter. So here it is. Tonight I go to Egypt, said the swallow. And he was in high spirit at the prospect. He visited all the public monuments and sat a long time on the top of the church steeple. Wherever he went, sparrows chirped and said to each other, "What a distinguished stranger!" So he enjoyed himself very much. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. "Have you any commissions for Egypt?" he cried. "I am just starting. Swallow, swallow, little swallow," said the prince. "Will you not stay with me one night longer?" "I am waited for in Egypt," answered the swallow. "Tomorrow my friends will fly up to the second cataract. The river horse couches them among the bulrushes, and on a great granite throne sits a god Menon. All night long he watches the stars, and when the morning star shines, he utters one cry of joy, and then he is silent. At noon, the yellow lions come down to the water's edge to drink. They have eyes like green beryls, and their roar is louder than the roar of the cataract. "Swallow, swallow, little swallow," said the prince. "Far away across the city I see a young man in a garret. He is leaning over a desk covered with papers, and in a tumbler by his side there is a bunch of withered violets. His hair is brown and crisp, and his lips are red as pomegranate, and he has a large and a dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theatre, but he is too cold to write any more. There is no fire in the garret, and hunger has made him faint. I'll wait with you one night longer," said the swallow, who really had a good heart. "Shall I take him another ruby?" "Alas, I have no ruby now," said the prince. "My eyes are left that I have left." So now comes the second incident, that the swallow was really very excited to go to Egypt. Why? Because his fellow mates were waiting for him, and they were supposed to start their second journey, their second part of a flying they were supposed to initiate. But at that time duration, the happy prince asked him again that will it be possible for him to stay one more night, so that he could sustain over there and he could help other people, and for the very next day he could become the messenger for him. So the situation was like this, that a young man who was a playwright and he was writing down some plays, but he didn't had any fire over there, and it was very cold winter. Moreover to that, he hadn't had any food, and because of this thing he had become really very faint. So at that time the swallow had really good heart, and he thought that okay, he would be no helping at any cost, he would be helping the person. So he told the happy prince that okay, for one more day he would be staying over there, and he asked that if you have another ruby, then I would go and give to the person. They are made of rare sapphires. And at that time duration, the happy prince told that now he had only left with two sapphires, and they were made very rare, which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. Pluck out one of them and take it to him. He will sell it to the jewelers and buy food and firewood and finish his play. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eyes and flew away to the student's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wing, and when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. So now the happy prince told that he is supposed to pluck the sapphires, the eyes which the happy prince was having. But the swallow said that it is not possible for him to do that. But the happy prince told that he commanded to do this thing. If he would give him this rare sapphire, he would go and get some food and get some firewood, and so that it would be possible for him to complete the play. When he reached over there, the person was darted in his room, and the young man had buried his head in his hands, so it was not possible for him to listen to the fluttering of the bird when he entered into the room. And when he looked up, he found a beautiful sapphire was lying over there. I am beginning to be appreciated, he cried. This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play. And he looked quite happy. The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors hauling big chests out of the hold with ropes. Heave ahoy! They shouted as each chest came up. I am going to Egypt, cried the swallow, but nobody minded. And when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. I am come to bid you goodbye, he cried. So now eventually what happened? Happy Prince as well as Swallow were appreciated for the work they were actually doing. And no, we can say the admirer, the writer, the playwright thought that he was being appreciated for the work he was doing. So now it was possible for him to complete his play. So the very next day, Swallow went down to the harbor. He sat on the mast and watched the sailors hauling with the big chests out of the hold with ropes. And he loudly said that hoy, he was now going to Egypt. And that cry was made by Swallow. And then the moon rose, nightfall, and at that time duration he came to the happy prince to bid him goodbye. And at that time duration he said, Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? "It is winter," answered the swallow, "and the chill snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. My companions are building a nest in the temple of Balbec, and the pink and the white doves are watching them and cooing to each other. Dear prince, I must leave, but will never forget you. And the next spring I'll bring you back beautiful jewels in the palace of those you have given away. The ruby shall be the redder than the red rose, and the sapphires shall be as blue as the great sea. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring her home some money, and she is crying. She has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my another eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So he plucked out the prince's another eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. What a lovely bead of glass! Cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. So, eventually, what happened when the swallow came to wish the happy prince goodbye? At that time duration, he said that if it was possible for him to stay one more night longer to help him again, but at that time swallow told that it was not possible for him because he was supposed to reach somewhere else, and moreover to that, the next time when he would come, at that time duration he would bring rubies and sapphires from him from the palace, and again he would be no happy, as people would always appreciate. At that time duration, again the happy prince requested him to stay one more night longer, because that little girl who was selling matchsticks, her matchsticks fell into gutter, and she didn't had any shoes or stockings to wear, and it was a cold winter night. Moreover to that, if she didn't brought any money to home, then his father would beat her up. And at that time duration, again that little no kind-hearted swallow thought that he would stay over there for one more night, and he swooped to that girl, and he slipped the jewel into her palm. And then she said that what a lovely bead of glass it is, and cried that little girl. She ran home laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said. So I will stay with you always. No, little swallow, said the old prince. You must go now to Egypt. I will stay with you always, said swallow. And he slept at prince's feet. All the next day he sat on Prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in the strange lands. He told him of the red ibises who stand in long rows of the bank of the Nile and catch goldfish in their beaks, and phoenix who is an as old as the world itself and lives in the desert and knows everything of the merchant who walks slowly by the side of their camels and carry amber beads in their hands, of the king of the mountains of the moon who is as black as an ebony and worships the large crystal of the great green snake that sleeps in the palm tree and has 20 priests to feed it with honey cakes, and of the who sail over a big lake on a large flat leaves and are always at war with the butterflies. So now eventually what happened when the swallow returned at that time duration, he saw that this little no happy prince was not happy anymore. He has lost his sapphire, he has lost his ruby, and now moreover to that he was, we can say, um blind. He was unable to see anything, and because of that thing he decided that he was supposed to stay with him forever. At that time duration, the happy prince told that no, you may go to Egypt with your companions, but then also he insisted that he would stay with him only. So then the next day onwards in the morning, whatever would happen in and around the city, around the town, Swallow would tell everything to the happy prince. So he would always stay near the feet of the happy prince. Dear little Swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and of women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Under the archway of the bridge, two little boys were lying in one another's arms to try to keep themselves warm. How hungry we are, they said. We must not lie here, shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. Then he flew back to and told the prince what he had seen. I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to my poor. And the living always think that gold can make them happy. So now eventually what happened? The king told, the happy prince told, that people always suffer a lot. No people are satisfied. And then at that moment, the swallow was supposed to have a roundabout in the city and tell happy prince what was the actual condition of man and women, because they suffer a lot. And at that time duration he realized that the rich were getting richer every now and then, and the poor were becoming poorer. It was not possible for them to survive. So at that time duration, how the children used to suffer, and how they were moved away from their place, their territories, and they were supposed to get out from there, how they used to stay all night in the rain. Everything was being described. And then the happy prince told that now you are supposed to take gold leaf by leaf, because he was covered finely with gold, and gold always makes people very happy. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier. And they laughed and they played games in the streets. We have prayed now, they cried. Then the snow came, and after the snow came the frost. The streets looked as if they were made up of silver. They were so bright and glistening. Long icicles like crystal daggers hung down from the eaves of the houses. Everybody went about in the furs, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door. When the baker was not looking, he tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. But at last he knew that he was going to die. He had just strength to fly up to Prince's shoulder once more. "Goodbye, dear Prince," he murmured. "Will you let me kiss your hand? I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow," said the prince. "You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you." "It's not to Egypt that I'm going," said the swallow. "I'm going to the house of death. Death is the brother of sleep, is he not?" And he kissed the happy prince on the lips, and he fell down dead at his feet. So eventually, now what happened? The whole condition and situation changed. Now it was extreme cold, and then cold changed into frost. And at that time duration, the bird, swallow, tried to keep himself warm as much as possible. But it was not possible for him because he was unable to have the strength. So at the end, he just went to the happy prince and he told that, "Can I kiss you for the very last time?" And at that time, prince thought that now he was finally going to Egypt. But eventually the prince told that no. The swallow told that no, now he was going to the house of the death. And he just kissed the happy prince on his lips and he fell dead down at his feet. At that moment, a curious cracked sound inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the laden heart had snapped right in two. It certainly was a dreadfully hard frost. Early in the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below in the company of the town councillors. As they passed the column, he looked at the statue. "Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks," he said. "How shabby indeed," cried the two councillors, who always agreed with the mayor, and they went up to look at it. "The ruby had fallen out of his sword, his eyes are gone, and he is golden no more," said the mayor. "In fact, he is little better than beggar." "Better than beggar," said the town councillor. "And here is actually a dead bird at his feet," continued the mayor. "We must really issue the proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die here," and the town clerk made a note of the suggestion. So they pulled down the statue of the happy prince, as he is no longer beautiful and is no longer useful, said the art professor at the university. Then they melted the statue in a furnace, and the mayor held a meeting of the corporation to decide that what is to be done with the metal. "We must have another statue, of course," he said, "and it shall be the statue of myself." "Of myself," said each of the town councillor, and they quarrelled. When I last heard of them, they were quarrelling still. "What a strange thing," said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. "This broken lead heart will not melt in furnace. We must throw it away." So they threw it on the dust heap where the dead swallow was lying. "Bring me to the most precious things in the city," said the god to one of his angels, and the angels brought him the laden heart and the dead bird. "You have rightly chosen," said God, "for in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing for evermore, and in my city of the gold the happy prince shall praise me." So at the end, what happens? That the bird died, and the next day, when the mayor came with the councillors over there, now the happy prince was no longer golden. He looked very dull and grey. So the mayor decided that we will put down this statue, and he would keep his statue in the city. And everyone quarreled that metal was also melted, but the the foremen, the workers over there who were working in foundry, they told that this heart cannot be melted and it is useless. So they threw it in the dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. And at that time, the God told one of his angels to bring two most precious things in the city. And the angel chose the two most precious things, and the angel brought it to God. And it was the dead swallow and the heart of the happy prince. So the god was really very happy and appreciated that they have chosen the right one, and they both can stay over here in the garden of paradise where this little bird would sing forever, and in the city of paradise this gold and happy prince shall ever praise the Lord. So, this is all about the chapter. Thank you for watching. I hope that every one of you have understood the chapter, how beautiful the story suffice, that we are always supposed to help others, no doubt, whatever the condition and situation may be. Goodbye, everyone, and have a nice day. Thank you for watching.